Happy Saturday. It is time for more of your questions, your money here on the Fox Business Network. I'm Tracy Byrnes along with Dagen McDowell.
You know the number. If you don't, it's 877-249-9626, or you can email us at yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. And let's introduce our fabulous panel for this hour. Pat Powell is here, the president of the Powell Financial Group. Drew Kessler, the sales director of Rand Mortgage. With those mortgage rates rising, you got a housing question, you call for Drew. Financial planner and author of Get a Financial Life. Beth Kobliner is here, and staying with us for this hour is Congressman Thaddeus McCotter and GM bondholder Bill Zastrow. Congressman, the American taxpayer is likely going to own about 3/4 of General Motors, and we have put in and will put in billions of dollars more than anybody ever imagined. And it looks like we were promised that, bankruptcy, it wasn't an option in December. Well, now it's clearly an option. What do you say to the American taxpayer who is outraged about this?
Well, I continue to go back to the Moody's report that said that had the auto companies been allowed to go into bankruptcy, and with the ripple effect through the manufacturing sector, the auto dealers, the entire economy, the social safety net of the United States would have lost about $200 billion. And that would not be in the form of loans that could potentially be repaid. What has to happen now is the administration, I believe, should look at that board and have one charge for it. Make these companies profitable and pay back the United States taxpayers. But again, Dagen and Tracy, if they had just been allowed to go into bankruptcy, that would have been $200 billion the taxpayers would have had to put into the social safety net that would not have been in the form of a repayable loan.
Well, what's different? The company's probably going into bankruptcy Monday. What's different between December and now?
That's a question that I would put forward more to the Auto Task Force. A lot of us in Michigan had hoped for a continued restructuring process over a period of time in a responsible fashion. Instead, we had a radical restructuring with bankruptcy. Unfortunately, the end result for both Chrysler and now apparently GM. But that's a determination they made.
But we are seeing it with the suppliers, sir. I mean, we saw Ford had to extend debtor financing to Visteon. Opel had to make a deal with Magna and GM to keep them going. So it has reached, and whatever they thought they could do to stave this off is not working at all. So you have to wonder if we should have just let this happen without having to spend all these taxpayer dollars.
Well, again, you would be out $200 billion at least in terms of the social safety net costs for the workers that would wind up being dislocated. But I also point out that with Visteon, which is headquartered in my district, and with Metaldyne, which is headquartered in my district, they both earlier this week filed for bankruptcy protection under Chapter 11.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to continue. The legs of this are going. I think we have Pamela back on the phone. Hey, Pamela.
You just hit my question. I'd like to know just exactly how anybody will ever trust a contract or personal property rights, and I'd like to know from that legislator exactly how he feels to have absolutely betrayed the trust of anybody that wants to share in the market. UAW didn't have any skin in this thing, and now they own it. Do you think the people that are in that union are going to get anything from it? I don't.
Representative McCotter, this is a recurring voice we hear from the people out there. I mean, is there any consolation you can offer them aside from the fact that you're going to own a piece of an auto company?
Well, I would just like to say that I think the situation is the UAW is being looked at as if they somehow won out in this. No one has won in this. When you talk about having no skin in the game, I talk about people who spent an entire lifetime working at General Motors. I talk about them with their union told there would be voluntary benefits fund that would be provided for by the company to the tune of $20 billion, and to turn around and find out that that promise is not going to be fulfilled, that they're going to get paper in there to try to tide them over and some payments. So when we talk about this and we pit the UAW against the bondholders, the reality is both sides are going to be hurt. And in terms of betraying anything, I would like to point out that this did not come through the legislative branch of your United States government. What it did was it came through the Wall Street bailouts ability to allow the executive branch to essentially operate a sovereign wealth fund without congressional oversight. This is why we sent a bipartisan letter, Republicans and Democrats alike, demanding that the Auto Task Force go back to an advisory role and put these powers back within the United States Congress where it belongs.
Well, I mean, and you make a good point. We opened the spigot with the banks, and then here we are, we're giving out money.
Well, speaking of responsible, Congressman, Some people are blaming the irresponsibility of just not your branch of government, but just the government in general in terms of the spending. We've got, $65 billion in treasuries that are going to be sold, or at least announced on Thursday. And you come from a party that preaches fiscal responsibility, but you're advocating for a rescue of General Motors. How do you make sense of those two?
Well, again, I go back to the fundamental argument. You can put $100 billion to keep the manufacturing base through the auto companies of GM and Chrysler in place and get repaid, potentially. Or you can have $200 billion right out the window you're never going to see again and further recess the economy with concomitant social costs there. So if you're looking at being fiscally conservative and you put those on the scales, I'll let you make your own determination. I've made mine.
But there are a lot of members of your party who have done the math, and they didn't come up with the same numbers.
Yeah, a lot of members of my party also voted for the Wall Street bailout and opposed the auto bridge loan, too. So individuals have different opinions of this. But it's also fun to kick Michigan and the companies when they're down. It's also nice to beat the war drums about protecting taxpayers when in the end you leave out the second step of how much it would cost going directly into bankruptcy. I don't hear them talking about that